Righty. Go ahead, Denise.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, like Brian said, like it's totally everyone. Sometimes you don't have the compassion to see uh, that other people have different views. But what I really loved was what Brene Brown said at the very end. That her husband said was that I don't know if everybody's doing their best, but I like to believe that everybody is because that makes me feel better. And that's that whole idea of, if you hate or if you're angry or anything, really you're the one that carries that burden. Nobody else does.
Yeah,
And I loved it. I just melted into that when she said that, because yeah, that was an aha. Absolutely. If you're, having all those bad negative thoughts, you're the only one that's like suffering in the end. It's just believing that everyone is doing their best is sort of just having that faith and compassion, and then you just feel better. It's sort
definitely.
of a lesson for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just as
definitely.
a quick aside, it's like that example where somebody is, honking at you because of something they think you did, and you get mad at them and they get mad at you and you end up in an accident. But really, it's that person's probably having a really bad day. Like it's not even so much necessarily is the person doing their best. It's just that,
Mm.
yeah, it's what's your perception of what's going on, right? That person could be having a terrible day, right? And so yeah, it's neat.
Definitely. And I know some of you may not be sharing, who may be sharing what I felt when I first read this. When I first read this past, like this research that she did about everybody's trying their best, it was actually from her earlier book called Rising Strong. And when I read it, I was like, this is BS. Like, I can't believe that everyone is trying their best. There's no way. So I was in a position where I'm about to pass over the directorship of my Mandarin school to my husband. So I mentioned to you last time, my husband used to work at Travelers and he quit his job and he's now the director of our Mandarin school. And he works very differently than me. And I see that and I'm very judgy. I'm like, is he really trying his best? I see him playing hockey during the day, or like I see him playing video games, or like I did not work like that. I was running this school with 6 locations and like da 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 da. Like I was doing all these things, and he's not doing any of those things. Is he really trying his best? And I just wouldn't believe it. And so I actually read that book twice for that passage because I was like, I do not believe this. And then I watched the interview. And what I took away was actually exactly what Denise shared is it doesn't even matter. Do I really want to hold on to the righteous feeling that I was a better director than my husband is? Or do I want to give him the space, kind of like Sarah did with her husband, to grow into his own way of being the director? It doesn't matter what I did, right? What it matters is what he's doing and how he's feeling about it. And this conversation stays here. If you know anyone working at Travelers or anyone that my husband has worked with, you do not mention anything. I will vehemently deny that I said anything about him being a different kind of director, worse kind. So I want you to watch the interview again, okay? Because it took me reading it twice, watching the interview twice, for me to fully understand what she's talking about, because I was so resistant to the fact that somebody else is doing their best when what I'm seeing is not true, because my perspective was so set in its place. So I do want you to watch that again. Okay. Alrighty. So what we're going to talk about today is, first, we're going to go back here again. We're going to talk about Enneagram. Into the chat, could you pop in your Enneagram type? Like if you're type 1, 2, 3, it's like number 1 to 9. If you can put into the chat room. So today's chat is almost going to be a summary of everyone's authentic me descriptions. And I'm going to share this with Denise and Jim and Brian, or the team. So first, I wanted to just mention about Enneagram and why I chose this for one of the tools to do together. So Enneagram is a really interesting self-development, self-discovery tool because it gets at the root of who you are. Not like Myers-Briggs is great, but it can change a little bit throughout your lifetime. With Enneagram, it does get at the root of who you are as a person and the way you think because of your childhood experiences. And those experiences really stay with you a lot. And just to give you an example, I am type 1, and type 1 is a reformer. So this type of people really looks at situations and things and tries to make them better. It's also my cause of stress when I look at something and I think this could be better, but no one's doing anything about it. Why aren't they doing anything about it? And I will have to do something or that stress continues. So Enneagram actually shows you both the pros and cons of your type. And I'm going to send you a link after today's session where you can read a little bit more about it. But understanding the root of where somebody is coming from is really going to help you understand their actions, their words, their stressors, and really give you a lot more compassion and empathy to what they're going through. One example I wanted to give is, so Brian, I see here is a type 5, and type 5, it's a peacemaker. Is that right?
No.
Did I get that wrong? Which one is the peacemaker? Sorry, one of them is the peacemaker here. Brian, what's type 5 again?
I'm just looking it up. I remember I was a 5, my wife was a 6. Let me just see here. Yeah, 5 is what is a 5? 5 is a investigator.
Okay, so there's a peacemaker one. I'm going to use that example. I think it's maybe 9. Sorry, I didn't memorize all the types, but so I had a staff on my team who was a peacemaker. That was her Enneagram type. And she would always side with whoever was the loudest in a meeting. And I would be so annoyed. I'm like, why doesn't she just like tell us what she thinks? Why is she always siding with whoever is the loudest? And sometimes that's me, and sometimes that's actually another staff of mine. But that's not really what this peacemaker staff believes in. But for her, it causes her a great deal of stress when there are conflicts in the situation, whether it's a meeting or if it's like personal kind of social setting, but it causes her a great deal of stress when there are conflicts. And she needs to, and her way of solving the conflicts is to go with whoever's the loudest so that they will just not be so loud and there will be less arguments back and forth. So at first, before I understood that this was her type, I just thought that she didn't have any backbone and that she didn't really have any ideas of her own. She was just always going with other people's ideas. But when I found out and realized more about her specific Enneagram type, it gave me a lot of insight into why she behaved the way she did. And I actually felt a lot more empathetic towards the fact that she didn't feel comfortable to voice her opinion because she was a peacemaker. What about, does anyone here want to share when they saw their Enneagram type? Did it give you any insight into your behaviors or into your feelings in a professional or social setting? It's okay, we'll come back to it. But I think that if you could take some time to read the descriptions that I'll be sending you about the different types, it could really give you some different perspective as to where your colleagues are coming from, you know, whether they're being triggered by certain things because of their innate type and their own experiences. In session 5, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about trauma and how childhood traumas can shape the way you view the world and the way that you see things and how they impact you. An Enneagram is actually related to the combination of those kind of experiences. Okay. So I'm going to save the chat so we can use them later. So now let's talk about love languages. I first want to tell you a story. So 5 years ago, I was having a really difficult time with my husband. It was a rough patch in our marriage. And again, some of you may have professional relationships with my husband. This is just in our room here. So we went to see a marriage counselor, and we still see her on a monthly basis just for check-in. And during like the first or second session, she said, I feel like this is a mismatch of love languages. And I had no idea what it is back then. But when I did the quiz and my husband did the quiz, I realized how important this tool is. And since then, I've used this not only for adult training, but also for my students to have a better understanding of who they are and what their needs are, and be able to speak up for their needs too. So in the chat room, I know you did this quiz. Could you just type in, what is your primary love language that you have found in the chat? And while you do that, I'll just share that my primary love language is acts of service and quality time. They were tied when I did the quiz. And for my husband, his primary love language was gifts and words of affirmation, which for me was at the very bottom. And what we were doing that was causing this mismatch is he was buying me all these gifts, like really nice jewelry and beautiful like gifts, because he's really into gifts himself. And I don't like gifts. I don't care about gifts. And I never really wore the jewelry that he bought me either, because it was just not something that, I don't know, was important to me. So he was really offended, but he never told me. And I never got him gifts because it's just not my love language type. And he didn't think about spending time with me or helping me do things. So we were just not speaking each other's love language. And later on today, we're going to talk about emotional bank account. So even though he was depositing into my emotional bank account, but like giving me gifts, well, maybe like do this much in terms of a deposit. But if he had spent quality time with me, it would have been this much of a deposit. So we just were not speaking each other's love language. And that was causing a lot of conflicts and issues for us. And so as soon as our counselor brought our attention to this, I mean, it wasn't like an immediate fix like that, but like we are so much better now. And we are really filling each other's emotional bank account. And in a work setting, I get all of my this is part of my onboarding process. I get them to do the survey and tell me what their love language is, because I actually make an effort to show my appreciation to my team members based on their love language. And it's not all the same. Like some of my team members, I was sharing this with Denise, like one of my team members' love language is physical touch. And that's a bit tricky, right? Well, before COVID too was tricky, but now even trickier. And we're always trying to figure out ways to give her physical touch in a way that's not offensive or creepy. So we actually always get her gift certificates where she can have physical touch with her boyfriend, where they can go to a movie together back in the day, where they can like eat at a restaurant together. They're just giving them times of physical touch, not necessarily from us directly, but giving her that. And then I have a team member who is really big on words of affirmation. So when we do highlights of teachers, or when we do a post about something, we always make sure that she is the one that gets highlighted first, because that really fills her emotional bank account. And I see from your sharing that there are a lot of different love languages from your team, quality time, acts of service. There's a physical touch in there too. That, could be a little bit tricky right now, but, you can find creative ways, maybe like, virtual hugs for Joanna all the time. And quality time, words of affirmation for Denise, quality time for Harsh. So these are all ways that you're filling your own bucket. And though, for those of you who have kids, this is such an important tool for you to teach them, because same as if you are a spouse or coworker, if you do things that are their love language related as punishment, they are hurt so much more. So my daughter's love language is quality time. So I would never give her timeouts or time apart from us as punishment, because that really hurts her a lot more than if I took her, like, take away a toy or something, because she doesn't care about gifts as well. And let's say I'm looking here, Aisha has words of affirmation as her love language. So you need to be really careful when you're communicating with Aisha. She would be very sensitive to the words that you use. Same with Denise. And just as you would fill their bucket a lot, or their emotional bank account a lot with words of affirmation, you can also deplete it a lot with the same love language in a punitive way. So this is really important for you to think about, both from your social relationships, but also from your professional ones too. And, John, for example, likes physical touch. So I don't recommend you to hit John, for example. Okay. Nobody hits John. Remember that. John would not like that very much. He would hate that a lot, actually. So just never use the love language against that person unless you really want a super negative response. And so that's something to really, be mindful of. And that's why I'm definitely going to share this chat history with you, so that you can see where everyone is coming from and how they need to be loved and appreciated. So research shows that the number one reason employees leave their jobs is actually not because of money. It's because of whether they feel truly appreciated. And the best way for them to feel truly appreciated is when the way you appreciate them and their love language actually align. So that is a really great thing to know, because you don't really want to spin your wheels giving somebody all these great gifts, all these appreciation, celebration gifts, when they really don't care about gifts at all. If you just took them out for lunch and spent some time with them, that would actually be so much more appreciated. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one. And a lot of it is like, I was physical touch and words of affirmation, and I can see that on the personal side, but I was trying to look at it from a business side, but it kind of makes sense, because I've always been a big proponent of seeing clients face to face, spending time with them, lunch, golf, whatever the case is, talking about the great things that they're doing. So for me, it's not I didn't see it as maybe it is, you give what you want or get, but I like to speak those love languages to my group and cohort, right? But I guess that you speak them because they're also what you want to receive. Like, I looked at it less about this is what I need from everybody, but more so as this is how I express to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're not going to get, maybe acts of service or gifts from me, but I'm going to spend some time with you, like be next to you, having lunch with you, golf with you, traveling with you. We're going to talk about the great things that you're doing. It's more of I saw it lined up more of how I express as opposed to what I'm yearning for.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. It actually goes both ways.
It does. I see that now.
The way you give love, it's also the way you receive love. And for those of you with children at home, or friends that you don't know, like, you may not tell everybody, go do this quiz, I want to know your love language. But you can actually figure that out pretty easily from just your kids. Like, if they tend to be ones that, get so excited when you give them a gift, or like they maybe not care so much about like getting you to play with them all the time, it really could show you what their love language is. Just like Jim, like whatever so let me see what Jim was, quality time. and
I was physical touch and words of affirmation.
words of affirmation. So those two would come more naturally to Jim than maybe to me, where I don't, words of affirmation, it's not one of my top love languages, but that's how Jim gives love, and that's how he loves to receive. It just goes both ways. And it's a really interesting, you can almost be like a love language detective to figure out the people around you, what they need from you. So I want to do a little group sharing right now. And I want you to think about a time, whether personal or professional, when you felt really, really appreciated, where you just were like, oh, wow, like that was awesome. And was it aligned with your primary love language? Like, can you think of that time when you really just felt so appreciated? And then I would love for you to pick a person in your group to share it with a bigger group. So we're going to do in 3 groups. And then so we'll have 3 shares, 1 from each group. So you're talking about a time when you just felt truly appreciated. It just filled you completely with love and sunshine. And was it aligned with your love language? So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll get you to be going into your breakout groups. So just like last time, you're just going to, not the pairs, we're going to do the groups first. So you're going to just pick the group where your name is in. Okay. You know what happened? Let me just. Okay. I'll just say where the group names are, because when Denise was telling me that everybody was having trouble getting in, I closed the room and I came back. So all the breakout rooms that I pre-assigned disappeared. So I'll just tell you what group you're in. So group 1, I've got Sarah, Jim, Tracy, John, Eilish, and Yomi. You're in group 1. So when you go in, you just click room 1. And then the group 2 is Brian, Elena, Marlon, Jacqueline, and Harsh. And group 3 is Denise, Corrine, Raul, Aisha, and Joanna. Okay, so I'm going to open all the rooms, and you're just going to choose the room that you're in. There we go. Perfect. Elena, do you want to know which room you're in? Elena, you're in room 2. And Eilish, you're in room 1. There we go. Hi, John.
Hey, I left my group too early by accident.
Oh, that's okay. Were you guys done sharing?
We were almost done, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Everybody's back. Yay. Welcome back.
We didn't have enough time.
Oh, you didn't have enough time?
No.
Okay, next time I'll give you a little bit more time, okay?
You're using too many words of affirmation there, Brian. They used.
No, it's good though. It was really good. Really good.
Love it. So can I get a person to share from each group, please? Group 1.
I'll go.
Okay, Sarah.
There's been
I'll talk
nominated.
enough. I got nominated. Just something at work. We've been sending gift boxes to our clients, and everyone at our office received gift boxes too. I was saying that I was personally very touched, and I like when I received notes from client how impressed they were, or how pleased they were, or how they were so satisfied with the small gift. But it was something that we were very passionate about, and it was a lot of time and effort was put into it. So that, to me, that was my love language that really affected me.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's something that happened at work recently, so I could share.
that's great. We'll give everyone jazz hands after all the groups share, but that's really awesome. It's almost like it would be wonderful for us to do things for other people that are aligned with their love language, but it also feeds our own emotional bank account, right? When they will actually naturally do something that will help us too. So that's really awesome. Great. Thank you. Group 2.
I want to elect either Harsh or Jacqueline to do theirs because we didn't get to hear theirs.
Oh, okay.
Sure. I mean,
Is that
I'll go
okay?
now. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a period of time where my brother was missing a lot of home food from the house, but you know, he had like a very busy period during exams and stuff, and I ended up working with my mom to make him like 2 or 3 of his favorite things, and we drove it down to Waterloo and kind of surprised him with it, and he was super appreciative of it because he was missing that home. He hadn't been home in some time, so that was one of those moments where I got that appreciation. I didn't do it because I wanted the credit. I just did it because I knew he would like it. So,
Yeah. And that was really special and definitely something you remember even till this day, right?
yeah, because I feel like it was a period of time, like in exams, everyone's so stressed.
Yeah.
So it was like that one little, half an hour, 1 hour that he spent with me, not studying, where he was eating what he wanted to eat, what he liked a lot. So
Yeah. And you're giving him your love language of quality time as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
I think
great.
Harsh's love language is actually food.
Is it?
Totally.
Oh, Harsh wrote quality time and food. Maybe that's
Totally.
a 6th love language that it's
Yeah.
not been discovered
Totally
yet.
Harsh's love language.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. The
Thank
key
you.
to Harsh's heart is through his stomach.
Nice.
You got me solved, Brian.
I love that. Now, last but not least, group 3.
I can share, or Raul, do you want to share? You had a great story.
Yeah, I can share. So mine was quality time, and I just got my CFA designation probably earlier this year, and my parents invited like a couple of close friends and family members over for dinner. So it was great to like see everyone and celebrate like an occasion where I'm the one being appreciated. So it was a good time to have everyone there and spend time together with friends and family.
Yeah, I love that. That's really great because you're giving your quality time love language to your family, but they're also reciprocating that to you as well. So it's like a really beautiful exchange of love too, just like with Harsh as well as Sarah. So can we give Sarah, Raul, and Harsh some jazz hands for their sharing? Thank you. And I also am accepting the feedback that you need more time to share. Okay, perfect. Next, I want to show you a video. So I want to talk for you to see this quick video on emotional bank account. And I just love the way that it's been described and how it shows what it means and how it helps people to understand each other's love language. Sorry, emotional bank account. I'm all about love languages right now. So let me just get this started and let me know if you are able to hear the sound okay as well. Okay. So please let me know if you're not able to hear. If it doesn't play, I'm gonna have to act this whole thing out for you.
Metaphor for the amount of trust in relationships is known as the emotional bank account. It is similar to a financial bank account into which you make deposits and can take withdrawals. If you build a high reserve within your emotional bank account, you have more trust. Communication is fast and almost effortless. If you have a low bank account, communication is slower and can be strained. If you have a high balance and you make a mistake, a withdrawal, the balance of trust you have can absorb it. If your account is low and you make a withdrawal, you can easily get overdrawn and damage the relationship. To arrive at a high reserve requires making many deposits.
The first deposit in the emotional bank account is always to seek to understand what deposits and withdrawals are to another, to see the world from within their own frame of reference. Because what you think is a deposit to another may to them be a withdrawal. So the next deposit would be treating people with kindness and courtesy and respect. The withdrawal would be to be unkind, discourteous, and disrespectful. The key to a family culture is how you treat the child that tests you the very most. If you can show unconditional love to that one, every other one will know you also love them unconditionally. They've seen it. But if they see you starting to compare, to criticize, and to be a little overreactive or too harsh, they'll take it personally. A third deposit would be making and keeping promises. A withdrawal would be not making a promise or making a promise and breaking it. Nothing will destroy the emotional bank account faster if you break a promise on a major issue. Another deposit would be always be loyal to the absent, to those who are not present, if you want to retain the loyalty of those who are present. The opposite of that is to badmouth, to get into small groups and to criticize other people, thinking they don't hear it anyway. But of course, it undermines your relationship with the very people that you think you're building a relationship with, as you criticize somebody else because they know you do the same thing toward them in a different circumstance. If you want to retain the loyalty of those who are present, always be loyal to those who are absent.
You landed it. Okay, thanks so much for staying late. Rob, you're on accounting. Think weekly.
Another major deposit is to make clear expectations every time you undertake a new project or a new relationship. The withdrawal is the opposite of that. Have all kinds of unclearness, ambiguity, fuzziness, assuming that you're on the same page when in fact you're not. Particularly around roles, what I'm supposed to do, what you're supposed to do, and goals. What are the important goals we're working on?
Okay, well, I can't listen when you're just negative all the time.
Another major deposit would be to learn to apologize to somebody.
I'm talking to you right now.
To acknowledge I was wrong. That was unkind to me. The opposite of that is to be prideful and arrogant. And when you do apologize, you just give a little bow. The Eastern expression is, if you're going to bow, bow low.
I'm sorry.
Another major deposit is learn to forgive and to forget, so that you're not giving away your future and letting yourself be disempowered by the weaknesses of the past, but to move on so that yesterday does not hold today and tomorrow hostage.
I'm okay, but the corners, well, fix it.
The withdrawal is to have bitter feelings and give your future away. So those are some of the major deposits in withdrawals.
And I would just like to add too that the size of deposits and withdrawals are actually related to the love language of the person that you're depositing to and withdrawing from. And we all have a EBA or emotional bank account with every individual and also with every group. So for example, when I first met you last week, I formed an EBA with your group. If I came super unprepared, I was late or whatever, things didn't work out, immediately that would have felt like a withdrawal. And then if I had to switch dates because I wasn't feeling well, it would continue to withdraw. So that's also part of the reason why first impressions are so important, because you want to make a deposit with the EBA of the person that you're working with first, instead of making a withdrawal. And I just wanted to have a discussion with you about your EBA when it's full versus when it's empty. How does that make you feel? Anyone want to share? Like, how does it feel when your EBA is empty versus when your EBA is full?
When it's
I can
full,
go.
I can go. Is someone going? No, I was just saying when you feel like your bank account is full, I guess it's similar to having a tank full of gas. So you feel more energized or more motivated, and you're able to withstand things that might be negative, whether or not it's unintentional or not, because you have that buffer that can take withdrawal if it happens.
Absolutely. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marlon, for that. So if you think about how the EBAs with each person can withstand future withdrawals, it would make sense for you to want to keep depositing so that you have a safety net, because you never know what can happen, right? Even so with me and Denise, and I know Sarah mentioned this last time too about client relationships. So Denise was my client. She was not my friend when we first met. And I need to build up our EBAs so that she knows I'm a trustworthy person, that I'm a coach that knows what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here with you. Even though I've had to make a few withdrawals from my EBA with Denise for days when I'm not feeling well and I had to change on her, even last minute sometimes. But because I have a fairly stable and healthy EBA with Denise, she's not that annoyed at me. I don't think she is anyways. Right, Denise?
Yeah.
She's like not that upset. She's like, okay, this happened, whatever. But if my EBA with Denise is overdrawn, then if I want to make another withdrawal, how do you think Denise will feel about me? So I think you would agree that she probably wouldn't be so happy, right? And that kind of withdraw deposit, that kind of relationship exists with all of your relationships, not just at work, at home, but also with you and a group or you and a pair. Like they all seem to happen. I have an EBA with my parents, that's for sure. I seem to always be withdrawing there, but these things always seem to happen. So we're going to save this for our next class where we're going to do some practicing in pairs. And I want you to start thinking about this already, which is what are some of the recent deposits you may have made to a colleague's EBA that is aligned with their love language? And optional thought you might want to share is, what was the last time you withdrew from someone's EBA? It could be your husband or your partner or your friend, whatever it might be. And then we'll share that next time as well. So just quickly, that hopefully today you have learned everyone needs to be appreciated. knowing your own and others' primary love language is really important. And being able to speak up for what you need is very important. And really being mindful of making deposits. I posted a link on LinkedIn about a meditation I created for self-love, because the most important EBA is really the one you have with yourself. And you need to make a deposit every day. So for me, I make a deposit every morning by meditating. And that helps me to fuel up for the day. And that really gives me a really great, healthy EBA with myself to start the day with. So I did a meditation, guided meditation, a 3-minute one on self-love. So I'll include the link in the follow-up email that I'll send you. And for your preparation work, it's really about making deposits. So I want you to try to make 3 deposits this week. Doesn't have to be coworkers. It could be your family. It could be friends that's aligned with that person's primary love language. And I want you to identify one person in your life where your EBA with them is getting kind of low, or maybe you've made a withdrawal with them recently, and sharing a little bit more vulnerably about that. So number 2, we'll work on that even more next week, but I just want to give you a heads up about that. And if you haven't read the pages 214 to 217, please read that and watch the interview between Brene Brown and Russell Brand. And I'm going to send you a link to the Myers-Briggs quiz. So that's going to be our preparation work for next week. And I'm sorry I didn't fulfill my promise of ending at 1 o'clock, but if you let me, I could have gone on for another half hour with you today. There's just so much I wanted to share. So, but we'll do that next week. All right. As always, feel free to message me if you have any questions. And thank you to those who already emailed me about booking a one-on-one. And the question was, what am I doing during the follow-up call with you? And it's one of 2 things. One is if you have any communication issues, blockages that you want me to do a deep dive with you about, like a scenario. And the second part is I'm going to do a clarity session with you to see what are the 3 areas in your life that's causing you some angst or communication troubles. And we're going to work on all 3 areas to see some next steps that you can try. So that's what we do for the follow-up sessions. All right, everyone, enjoy your week. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.